There's no compulsion in this, but if you do have an inquiring mind, you are interested in more, we'll try to find you someone. As regards to what's available now with refreshments and the more practical part of the program, we're asking first that the women go out to the hall here and take their food and then come back to this room. And when the women are done, then the men are to go out to the hall and take after the women. So women would get up now and go to the food, and men stay here for a little bit. Okay, and if there are any other questions or issues, there are going to be some television programs on the topic of Christmas and New Year's coming up on Islamic Journal. That's Tuesday at 7 o'clock. And then there will be some newspaper articles, Riyadh Daily, about these topics, just for other information sources for you. Thank you again for your time and your patience. Assalamu alaikum. While the ladies go out for the food, if the men have any more questions of my brother or anyone and anything, you can continue. Do you want? I'm sorry to post. Okay. I'll.
Invite them to Islam. This is practical. You know what happens, you see, inviting to Islam doesn't mean that every time you see them you tell them you have to be a Muslim, you have to be a Muslim. No. Inviting to Islam has many, many different ways. You might invite them over to your house. You might have a movie, which is about Islam, something like that. You show it, You may go with them on a picnic with some other families and that, and use it as an opportunity. Your own practice, you're dealing with them in an honest way, in a kind way, in a just way. This is all part of da'wah. Da'wah encompasses all of it, right? So, don't feel that the only way that we can express friendship is through joining them in their celebrations and giving them cards and giving them gifts. Their right is to receive the word of Allah. That is the fundamental right, and that is the most important. Everything else is inconsequential. They have a right in terms of practicing their own religion, as long as it is not, propagated in the society. They can like to do it on their own in their homes or whatever. They have that right. But the right that they have from us is fundamentally to convey the message of Islam to them. And any of us who does not do that is a sinner. And that's the point that we should be very concerned about. That we find ourselves in circumstances where we are sitting or we're working with non-Muslims and we are not conveying to them Islam.
I think one thing is that we are all ambassadors of Islam by default, whether or not we like it. By our actions, Islam may be judged. Now, to those people from the West who don't know anything about Islam, the only thing they would have which to base Islam is on our actions. But I tell them in retrospect, what if I were Muslim and you're, say, in the West, and I watch about Northern Ireland on television? Should I assume that Christianity permits killing and, bombing and maiming and all that? I said, no, we're not that, it's not that simple not to do that. But unfortunately for them, they don't have a frame of reference because there isn't much information. But when you're in the company, Westerners have a taboo about talking about details of religion. You don't ask them if they pray directly because many get upset. But I think the key thing is, by our acts, we have to be especially careful in their presence to have appropriate actions and not to do things wrong, because I said they may come to the wrong conclusion. Not only are we punished for what we did wrong, but for having given them the bad impression of what we have done. I think the key thing is every good deed is charity. You can talk a lot about Islam without using words which have very negative meanings to the Westerner. The words Muslim and Islam have been slandered and have very negative impressions. But you can just by saying, well, I'm not going to say good morning to you, I'm going to say peace. How are you going to get mad at me about that? You might say the morning's not good, but you can't be upset at me if I say peace to you. or that even a smile can be charity. You can find ways around to introduce them to Islamic concepts and make them receptive slowly. It takes a long time. And I think the key thing is, we have to persevere and be careful what we do in their presence.